Welcome everyone to the People Solve Problems podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Flinchball, and today we have Brian DeVries as our guest. Brian, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. Appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, glad to have you. You're from Michigan, where I spent a lot of my time in the
Yeah,
past,
yep.
and before I moved to Pennsylvania. Brian has over 13 years of experience across industries like manufacturing, agriculture, food and beverage, uh,
hmm
and insurance, helping organizations implement lean strategies, drive meaningful improvements. Currently, as a senior advisor at Lean Fox Solutions, focuses on unlocking potential and enhancing lives through continuous improvement. And super excited. Now a new author.
Yes.
Publishing a children's book, The Big Thinking of a Small Night. So first, congratulations. And
Yeah, thank
while
you.
it's not what we're here to talk about, why don't you just tell us a little bit about the book?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I've got a beautiful product placement here right next to me. So was really excited to do this. This was something that I've used children's stories, those types of things in a lot of my trainings. It's always been a part of it. And matter of fact, I started recently a podcast and I was trying to think of my sign off and I was using, unless from the Lorax. And I thought, I need to make my own. And I had for a long time thought about doing this children's book, be able to have that kind of simple message. And so this one here, really, it's based on, it takes a likeness, I guess, of my little 4-year-old son, but really just from the thought of it's more of a, I'd say, leadership continuous improvement book where it follows him. He's a young knight. He imagines himself as a knight. He solves these problems, and he imagines himself in a problem that's too big for him to solve himself. And he really learns that virtue of, gosh, now if I can teach people to solve problems, how much more powerful we are together. So really about that wisdom of many rather than just that knowledge of one. And so it's just a fun kid's story and it's a pretty quick read, but just a fun story to kind of start kids young on thinking about really true leadership potentials as far as leadership talent. Go out and teach others. You don't have to do it all yourself.
That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
congratulations. We'll wait to see. I mean,
Yeah.
already it's a big lift to pull that off.
Yeah.
See if there's a sequel.
Yeah. Thank you.
So since that's a bit about, problem solving, why don't you tell us a bit about your approach to problem solving,
Yeah.
whether it's your own work or your work in consulting with your clients?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's funny because as we go, as we've been exposed to so many things, over the course of time in the lean continuous improvement world, you get exposed to so many different problem solving methodologies, whether it's going through the agile process, PDCA, DMAIC, A3. And I was initially first part of my career, I was introduced to kata, and so that's kind of where I started was these quick wins, scientific methods, set your vision, and start to iterate towards that goal. And I think over time, what really started to, I would say, resonate with me, and it became really my go-to, was I was introduced to this 9-box A3, and really the process itself is something that now I've coached it for so many years. I can do it in my, I do it in my sleep. I write up, I typically will facilitate it graphically on a flip chart. But for me, what it comes down to is it's the 9 boxes really are, first of all, it's the rally cry, it's the problem description, but at the same time, it's why are we here together? So I always frame it as the rally cry. I always encourage the team to talk through, problem statement and descriptions, but really have that one statement that always comes back, that we can always come back to. And I do that really because I can remember years ago, I was a new leader at an organization and we had a meeting. They wanted me to sit in. It was a problem solving meeting. It was a meeting about an issue that was going on. And so I got to sit in at the table and listen. And so I'm sitting there listening, and there's several folks talking, different conversations happening. There's a lull in the conversation. So I kind of raised my hand and said, "Hey, do you mind if I interject something?" Said, "Yeah, no problem." And in the middle of the table were these sticky notes. And so I said, well, everybody take a sticky note. And I want you to write down what problem we're trying to solve today. And, when you're done, put your pen down. Then we know everybody's done. So pens go down. I started front left and I said, I want you to read what you wrote on that sticky note. And so we go around and you can imagine the number of them that actually matched, right? There were some that were close, but none of them matched word for word. And so that experience when we went through and we created kind of our statement of what we want to do, what we want to accomplish now. This is the reason why we're getting together. Really became kind of behind that rally cry. So problem description, but that rally cry. So that's my step one. And then, of course, you go through the process of current state. What do I want to look like today? What do I want to look like tomorrow? What are my gaps? And then those experiments. What's my hypothesis? How do I test it? Put my action plan in place. Did it work? And then my lessons learned. And so I think of it in those kind of 9 boxes. And certainly I draw it out and have some fun with it. But it all comes back to me for that. It's the rally cry. Get that one succinct statement that people can remember. Why are we doing this? That's why. Put it up on the wall, make it short. You can describe it more, but have that one statement. But for me, it's that 9 box A3 methodology because I feel like it's really scalable. You can do it quickly. You can do it on a large scale project. But for me, that's kind of the one that I always go to.
Yeah. Well, and I think go-to is important, right? Because we need a consistent standard that just helps trigger our muscle memory that we've built
Yeah.
time. And I mean, I've seen everything from 2 box to 27 boxes, um, and it was like it's not right or wrong. It's just
Yeah,
what are you building the muscle and consistency around?
exactly.
But that rally cry around a problem statement, there's just a subtle point that you added in there that I want to go back to, which is you go back to the rally cry, right? So a lot of people
Yeah.
do this step one, and then
Yep.
you're done with it,
Right.
and you're really talking about going back to it. And
Yeah.
I'm sort of a firm believer of that. But why not, instead of me arguing why don't you articulate why do you think it's useful, helpful, important to return to that problem statement
Yeah.
about the problem solving?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I talk about that rally cry, and I do talk about how we go back to it and the importance of making it visual, whether it's visual on, your virtual setting, whether it's visual on a wall, it's always great to go back to it, to your point, that's the way I coach it. And with that, as you go through problem solving, you're going to go through times where you've got to make a difficult decision, or hey, we have scope creep, or we're going down a path and all of a sudden it divides. Which way do I go? That rally cry is a wonderful way to get back to that's why we're here today. Inevitably, when you're going through problem solving, you're bringing up, there's going to be another problem that comes up. It's like, okay, well, we got to solve for that too. And we got to solve for that too. Oh, hold on. Our rally cry is this. This is the reason we're here. It's not demeaning the problem that we just got brought up. But we got to parking lot that and go after this other stuff. So I think for me, that rally cry keeps us centered on why we're there together. And if it's short and succinct and something I can remember, it's easy to rattle off. People say, "Oh, you're going to that meeting. What are you going there for?" Bam, my rally cry. So I always think it helps keep our teams centered on the work at hand because it's so easy to creep into other things and because it's hard to say no to good ideas. It's hard to say no to, let's not solve that problem. We just brought it up. It's a great problem to solve. It looks really fun, but we got to put that to the side and focus on that rally cry. That is why we're together. That's why it's important we're here today. Parking lot, the other stuff, but all those pieces, going through those difficult decisions, the tough times, as you're navigating the norms of, team dynamics, it's a great thing to be able to go back to.
Yeah. I mean, scope creep, as you mentioned, new problems. You end up starting 15, you finish none of them. Stay focused,
Right.
stay true, and that keeps you centered.
Right.
I like all of that. Um, so let's talk about breaking down problems, right? There's sort of an appeal to people naturally of, hey, I'm only going to solve one problem today. It might as well be a doozy. Uh, but it's not always helpful. So whether it's the small night in your book or
Yeah.
in a 9 box A3, how do you help people both see the benefits of breaking down the problem, but then actually do it?
Yeah, that's good. I think for me, it comes down to certain trigger points for me. As I think as being a kind of that coach for folks, and I've been in that coaching role now for a while. And as you see a team struggling, for me, there's trigger points that help me figure out, okay, maybe it's going to help us to step back and break this down into smaller pieces. So I always kind of go back and I think about, is there something that's really complex about this problem? Like if it's a really complex problem, it's going to be beneficial to us to break it down. And I think a lot of people will understand that. There's times where it's like, I'm not seeing the measurable improvement to the improvements that we put into place. Well, maybe we need to break it down. If the path isn't clear. Okay, that's a trigger to me to I need to break things down. So I always look for those triggers of folks where it's just something's not clear, something's not right. It's really hard for me to articulate. Is a good opportunity for us to step back and say, all right, it sounds like now it sounds like a bigger problem. It's hard for us to articulate. It's hard for us to measure. Maybe there's multiple root causes, whatever the case may be. It's great to be able to step back and say, you know what, let's break those things down. I was fortunate enough early in my career to be exposed to kind of that agile methodology and kind of, matter of fact, I was certified as a Scrum Master. Uh, but I loved the thought of being able to break things down into smaller, bite-sized chunks. And you think of it like several different things from, I always liken it to the health and fitness world where, you've got a certain weight loss goal or a cholesterol goal or something that's out there. And I know I want to get there. The number on the scale is my lagging. That's something that I can't change. What I can't change is all the stuff that goes into it. So by the end of the week, I want to lose 2 pounds. Well, Monday, here's my meal plan. Here's my exercise plan. Did I do those things? And from that, those actions, we can then be able to take those and adjust and, oh, missed the gym, didn't drink enough water, whatever the case is. And so I try to frame it in that mindset for folks when we're going in to solve a business problem, because it's just one of those things that helps relate it to, okay, yeah, this is the same stuff we can do in everyday life, but at the same time, being able to take that end goal, relate it to something somebody could understand. Here's the value in breaking it down because we can make better adjustments, better decisions. And I think trying to keep those things relatable is good. But I always look for those trigger points on, yeah, we're really struggling. Good trigger to tell me that, yeah, we should probably break this problem down.
Yeah. So indirectly, you've brought about learning in problem solving a couple of times. One
Yeah.
is right there is that we're stuck. It means we have some discovery to do. We don't quite
Yeah.
grasp it. And also going back to the big thinking of a small night, it's how do I teach people and
Yeah.
help them discover problem solving.
Yep.
So, how important is learning within and around problem solving, and how do
Mhm.
you make sure it's a learning mindset within it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was glad for the timing of our show too, because we've got with the book there. That's really the premise behind it is learning and having people learn how to problem solve. And in many ways, I had a great project a long time ago, and I was working with Hayworth. We had a great work with a nonprofit, and it was a project that was recognized, nationally at a conference, won an award. There's all sorts of stuff that went with it, but I can remember this project was with folks that were having, they had alcohol abuse, homelessness. There was all sorts of issues, and this program that this nonprofit had was to help to get them back on track and get them back out in the workforce. And we came in and did a Kaizen event, did some training, and became a part of really their curriculum. And I remember there's this one gal that was in the program, and her quote still sticks with me, which was, "I didn't know my mind could think about a problem that way." And and it was so early in my journey. That quote just to see that light bulb go on and how that now translates to her personal life and being able to go back out into the world and and affect the world in a positive way. That is when I think about learning and problem solving, it's teaching folks they can do this. Like they have it in them. I'm giving you the framework to help you. I'm giving you that process to help your mind that can already do this more efficiently. And so for me, that's always been something that's special. It's really a big reason why I went through and wrote the story. It was just it's about teaching people to problem solve. When we all do it together, how powerful that is. And even at the end of my 9 box A3, as I go through that process, we get to that last box. It's lessons learned, and I really stress to the folks, it's not just lessons learned. Like, okay, hey, this improvement didn't work. We should have done this or that. It's really about lessons learned with the process. What worked really well with the process? What didn't work so well? What didn't I know? What should I have done differently last time or next time? So as you look at those lessons learned, I really stress the importance of the process itself as problem solving. What are those things that I did differently? What are those things that I learned that I want to keep doing? Really stress that at the end of it. So for me, it is about, you always hear building that army of problem solvers. That's what I want to do. I want to impart that same knowledge the process that we go through, or at least my process that I go through, I want you to try it, see if it works for you. If not, there's certainly other ways we can attack them, but it's always about that end user for me anyway, as that coach, because as I think about those folks, as they go out and they do it themselves, how empowering does that feel now to have a process they feel comfortable with and they can apply in any setting? So learning is always key to me as I think about people and problem solving, having them feel empowered and successful.
Yeah. I love that quote. I mean, that's, we all have those moments where whatever our work is, there's a moment that you just
Yeah.
recognize that it's adding value, and
Yeah.
you don't have to see it every day. It's kind of like you're swinging the bat, and every once in a while you connect and hit a grand slam, and that's
Yeah,
that kind of a quote is one of those, lifelong carryable moments.
for sure.
So what do you see as some of the impediments to people learning more about improving problem solving? What stands in their way from whether wanting to or being able to learn?
Yeah. Yeah. I think oftentimes what I find is just there's times where I don't know if they have that venue to always do that. When you think about a really great culture, a good problem solving culture, first and foremost, it's safety. You think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's my safety needs. I want to have a safe environment where I can go and I can solve problems and it's okay to fail. And so, and I think if you've created this environment where that's okay, it's okay to say, okay, try again. That is going to, I think, enable much more successful problem solving. There is that also. I don't know if I can do it. I'm scared of it. It's something new. It feels like, what if I fail? And so you've got to create, again, it all comes down to that environment where it's safe. It's okay. This is learning. This is what it's all about. And creating that environment where it's okay to go problem solve and maybe be wrong. Build that trust, whether it's between an individual or a team. It's the key pieces for me is creating that environment. Then you can go practice on problems. Then maybe it's then having the process itself to practice, but having that environment first and foremost where I feel comfortable, I feel empowered, I have the opportunity now to go solve those problems. So I think for me, that's what I think I see most often is just that environment. While maybe we pull them into a problem solving session or we put them into a training, do we really buy into that? Is the culture set up that way? And so as I think about it, it's what are we doing to help create that environment for our folks to be successful?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I believe that a lot, right? It's not all in the individual, it's the environment. I
Yeah,
wrote about safety back 20 years ago in the Hitchhiker's Guide to
that's right. Yep.
and even in the role of the leader in creating the environment and people solve problems. Um, so your role as a consultant is one aspect. What can leaders do in the organizations that you coach and advise? What can they do to help elevate that safety or remove that
Mhm.
barrier from people learning problem solving more?
Yeah, I think it comes down to just being one intentional about it. It's when I want my people to grow, I want my people to problem solve or grow their problem solving skills. Be intentional about that. Give that feedback. And I think, well, maybe even above all, one of the things, and I think back to my past as a supervisor on a manufacturing floor, it comes down to vulnerability, going first. Like, be the one that makes the mistake. Be the one that admits I don't know the answer. I can remember one of my first nights. I worked nights for a while in manufacturing, and I was new on the floor, really new to manufacturing at this time, and I was the supervisor of this area. And I can remember we were paired for a while, and the person I was working with pair was called in sick, and I mean, 2 or 3 days on the floor at this point. I have no clue what's going on. And I remember I stood in front of that group who I know, and we had struggled as far as historical schedule completion, all the numbers. I stood in front of that group that night, and I had my script of things I was supposed to say, and I stood there and I said, you know what? Before I get into any of this stuff, I don't know anything about this process yet. You could pull the wool over my eyes, and I would have no idea. And I'm asking for your help. I'm asking for you to help teach me, to help us work through this process, and really just kind of show that vulnerability, show that I don't know this. I'm here to help you, and if we can get this working, it's going to be great. And we ended up having a really great night. But the respect that I garnered from the staff and my people there, it just continued to grow and snowball. And we were extremely, over the course of 12, 18 months, we were extremely successful in that area with continuous improvement. It's the reason why I do what I do now. But it all started with that night having my partner call in sick and standing in front of that group and saying, I don't know anything and I need your help, and being very real and open and honest with those folks. And they reciprocated that. And I think as a leader, that is so hard to do. Again, part of the premise of that book, of that story is it's okay. We need the village. We need the folks to help us. And so to me, it always comes back to that, just that one comment of, I don't know anything and I need your help. I think went a long way. And I really do feel that is something that if more leaders do that, they'll see a lot of great results.
I love that. And, you can't always choose the moments as they present themselves, as you didn't get to choose that moment, but we can choose what we do in it.
Yeah.
So that's a great choice and a great story. Thank you for coming on the show, sharing some of your perspectives, and certainly wish you all the best with your book and your consulting.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And thanks for having me, and I look forward to listening to many more of these episodes.
Thanks.
Thank you.